This is the Thriving Artist Podcast with Andrea Fleming, where we talk about how to go from surviving as an artist to thriving as an artist. Let's go. It's the last week of December, and you know what that means. 2024 is upon us. I get excited about the new year, not because of New Year's Eve and all the parties, because I would rather be on the toilet all day than do that, unless it's a really, really private event and my favorite people are there, because I'm not a partier. But anyways, I do get excited for the new year because the new year means, to me, fresh starts, new beginnings, reset, all those things. And I know that it doesn't actually mean that. I know you can literally reset any time of the year, which I do often have resets and new fresh starts and all this stuff throughout the year in different areas of my life. But I still like to keep up with the tradition of thinking of the new year as a fresh start and revamping. I think renewal is the most beautiful thing. And it just helps me to make sure I always have a time of the year that I do renew and that I do have fresh start, because it's super healthy for the mind. It's super, it feels good. It just feels good. Okay. So if you're like me and you like to have renewal periods throughout the year, and the New Year's time in the Western calendar is your marker for that, or one of your markers for that, then I think you're going to like this episode, because that's what we're talking about: how to set your mind up right and to plan for the coming year, and make sure that you make it the year that you want it to be. And of course, before I get started, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and leave a review, and all the ratings and all the things, and tell me everything you love about this and everything you want more of. Okay, now that that's out the way, let's jump right in. So you may not be the kind of person who likes to plan and be super structured. And I just want you to know that that's totally okay, because you don't have to be with the way that I think about quote unquote planning for the new year. My brain is very much on both sides of this. In some ways, it needs a lot of structure to function. And in other ways, it needs a lot of freedom. And I'm going to explain to you kind of how I think about planning and how I plan my year, and use a combination of those two ways of being in a way that really works for me and makes it so that I can actually achieve my goals and like create my vision in my head and put it out into the actual world. So no fear. This is not going to be, make sure you plan out every hour of your calendar and make sure that you have every little bit of your goal mapped out and think backwards. It's not going to be any of that. It's just going to be an overall way of thinking about planning and goal making that I think is going to make it a lot easier for you to find your process for mapping it all out. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. So I like to think about this in two parts. One part is like the bigger picture, which is your overall vision for your year and how you like to specifically structure that or have that be organized in your brain. Because I think of it as two main ways you can do it. And you might be one of the people who leans one way or the other way, or you might be a combination. I happen to be a combination, and my brain leads one way more than the other, but I definitely need elements of the opposite way of thinking as well for some aspects. So when you're thinking of the overall vision for your year, you might like to think of it in terms of like goals. I like to think of specific goal versus a non-specific goal. And what I mean by that is, if you're a specific goal kind of person, and that's really how your brain works, where you see exactly what you want down to the detail of what socks you're wearing when you achieve that goal, that's amazing. And you will really thrive with thinking of your goals in terms of the SMART goal format, which is having it be super specific. Everything is mapped out. It's measured. You think of it in a very attainable way. Like you can actually make a plan, like a step-by-step plan for it. and it's realistic for you, and it's very timely. Like if you light up and you get inspired into action and you don't need any like push or shove to get going when you plan out your goal like that, that's perfect for you. If you're not that kind of person and that has you shut down or make you want to throw up, that's totally fine. You might be a values driven goal person. And I'm going to get into the details of both those, but I'm going to start with SMART goals. So for all of my super structured goal people, like your goal itself has to be structured in order for you to feel really inspired and to help you to thrive. The SMART goal format is awesome. So again, you want it to be so specific. And to me, what specific means is it's exact down to the detail. So in terms of performing, it might look like this. If you're a musical theater performer, it might mean that you create a goal that is, you want to be on Broadway, right? That's like your vision. But it might mean like you picking the exact show that you want to be in and the exact role and exactly what time of year you want to have that goal done by, right? So it's so specific and you know exactly like who you want around you in those moments. And you know, what else is something that is super specific that could go into that goal. And you know what else you want going on in your life at that time. You know that like, I want to only be focused on that. I don't want to have any other jobs. I don't want to be focused on any other projects. I just want to be doing this. If you're the type who thrives on a lot of structure around your goal, I would highly recommend being super specific like that, because it's just going to have you be more focused in your implementation of that goal. You also want it to be measured. So for example, you might, if your goal is to get on Broadway, a way that you might measure that goal is by measuring the process of it. Like, I need to make sure I get this number of callbacks in this time period. And I need to make sure that I am networking this many times a week, or I need to make sure that my agent submits me for this many appointments. If you have that kind of relationship with your agent, like sometimes people don't, and that's okay. Don't try to force your agent to do it if that's not the kind of relationship that you have, but it needs to be measured like that. You like really want to get into the numbers, the frequency of things, the quantity of things that you're doing. And then you also want to make sure that when you think about your goal, it's an attainable goal, right? So you don't want to be the kind of person who, if you're like a super structured goal person, you don't want to be the kind of person who's like, I want to be in three feature films and I want to get 3 Broadway offers and fight between all of them or something like that. If you're a structured goal kind of person, you're more likely to be the kind of person that needs to have it be super attainable for you to move forward with it. So it might be like, I want to make sure that I get into this one Broadway show, and it's going to be one that the songs I know like the back of my hand, and I could belt it in my sleep. If I had to wake up tomorrow morning and sing it, I would be ready to go for the, I don't know, what's a show that they sing it on, Good Morning America or whatever it is. And it's a show that I've been called back for. Maybe that's how you think about it. Maybe that feels attainable to you. That might be the kind of goal that you want to make for yourself. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't leave yourself open to bigger and better things and many offers and many opportunities. That's not what that means at all. It just means that when you're thinking about your goal and you're planning your day-to-day life, you have this attainable goal in mind when you are in action. Because for a lot of people who need structured goals, having it be attainable is what helps them to be into action. If they are all over the place and they don't have something specific and they have like something that feels like it's out of reach, they more than likely won't want to take action on it. So if you're that person, only you know you, be really honest with yourself and make sure that you're making your goal super attainable. It also has to be realistic. So likely if you're one of these people that needs a lot of structure in your goal making, then having it be something like, I'm going to be the co-star in a new feature film with Brad Pitt, not super realistic for where you are in your career right now. And it's likely not going to inspire you into action. It's going to remain one of those things that feels like a fantasy and therefore not something that you'd want to take action on. So you're probably going to want to make it super, super realistic. For instance, if you've never booked a show in your life, which likely that's not you if you're listening to this podcast, but just for an example, if you've never booked a job in your life and you haven't had training and you're not super confident, it's probably not realistic for you to make your goal to book Hamilton by the end of the first quarter. It's not super realistic, and you probably won't be motivated to take action if you're the type of person that needs structured goals. Also, you want to make sure it's timely, which means that you actually set up a time period in which you think of your goal in. So for example, you're probably not going to want to keep it open-ended if you're the type of person who's super structured and say something like, I want to make sure I get an offer at some point in the next year. For you, it might be more helpful to be like, by November 1st, I want to get an offer. By July, I want to start making sure I get to second round callbacks. By this time, I want to make sure that by March, I want to make sure that I at least submitted the first audition. You want to make sure that your goal has time structure with it. Otherwise, it's going to seem too, what's the goal? It's not going to seem tangible. It's going to seem too intangible for you. Your brain might need the organization to hone in on it. Again, it's okay if it doesn't actually hit it in that time. That's not the point of it. You might say that you want the offer by November and then get it by December 12th. Do not beat yourself up for that. Do not hold yourself to it, right? It's more so that your brain has a point of focus so that it knows when it should be on track for certain things, when you should focus your actions in a certain way. That's going to, for your brain, if you're this kind of person, that's going to be more helpful for your brain to latch onto than just keeping it out in the ethers and not having specific time set to it. Now, if you're not this person, you're probably listening and wanting to throw up. You're like, this sounds awful and it sounds too tedious and it sounds like I would rather just go, I'm going to keep it clean, sit on the couch and play video games all day. That might be you. If you are this person, the opposite of that is going to make you want to sit on the couch and play video games. But if you are not the structured brain kind of person when it comes to making goals, it's not going to motivate you to think in this way. You're going to be turned off. So for you, what I found is values goals is a lot more helpful for these kinds of people. So for example, you might not want to make your goals super, super specific and have a time limit placed on it or have it be something super realistic. That might not light you up. Instead, it might look like saying, oh yeah, I know that I really value TV acting and I love working on stage. I don't so much enjoy only using my voice to act, so voiceover is not for me, but I know I love to be doing work in front of an audience where they can see my body. That lights me up. So I want to make sure that I'm doing something like that. And I want to make sure that it gives me the lifestyle where I can take 2 weeks of vacation per year. And I also want to make sure that I get to have my early mornings available. And I can also take my dog out to walk at noon every day. So I want to make sure that when I'm choosing jobs and when I'm thinking of jobs and going out for auditions, that it aligns with all of those things. That really, really lights me up. If that inspires you into action, you're probably more of a non-specific goal kind of person. The way that I was describing it, if you were like, oh, that turns me on, I want to go audition right now, then this is probably you. Another way to think about it is focused on lining it with your lifestyle. So if you're thinking about a perfect day or a perfect week, what does that look like? Does that look like, okay, in the morning, I wake up, I don't have an alarm, and then I do my vocal warm-ups, and then I cuddle on my couch and journal all day, and then I go and do a dance class, and then after dance class, go right into work on stage, and I do my performance, and then I go home, go to sleep, and I do my nighttime routine, and blah, blah, blah. That's probably a perfect day for you. So when you're thinking of the perfect day, that inspires you to go out and take action on that goal. This is going to be for you, and you'll know what kind of actions to take based off of that because it aligns with your lifestyle and you're more inspired to take actions. And you'll see a gig that doesn't align with that perfect day, and you just won't take that action. Or you'll notice that the actions that you're taking doesn't align with that day, so you don't take that action. It also might be based on standards. For example, you might know, I don't want a lifestyle where I'm working for $500 a week. That just does not suit me. So you'll know what actions to take based on that. So it kind of makes sense, right? It's not like this is rocket science, but this is like a huge game changer. If you know yourself to be a certain type of weight and you've been trying to fit yourself into a box of like, it's very common for people who are non-specific goal people to feel like they have to put themselves in the specific goal box, and it just never works for them, and they're never motivated, and they never take action because that's not how their brain works. So just know that you have the freedom to think of goals in a different way. It doesn't mean that you have to be completely goal-less or completely like disorganized, but you can organize your planning and your goals in this way, and it'll suit you a lot more, and it'll inspire you a lot more. And vice versa. Like there's some people I know who they feel pressure to be more free-spirited and go with the flow, but that's not how it works. They're more of a SMART goal kind of person. They need that structure. They need that specificity, and that's totally fine. Pick what works for you. Now, you might be a person who actually some elements of the SMART goal really work, and then some elements of the values goal really work. I'm that person. I lean more toward the values goal, the non-specific goaling, but there are some elements of the SMART goal that really, really work for me. For example, I don't thrive on having my goals be super specific. Like I can't be like, I want to make sure I'm in Hamilton by December 1st. And that's what I'm going to do. That does not work for me at all. Like my brain feels the jail. Like I feel like I'm in jail thinking of it like that. And then my brain rebels and it starts doing everything. And then it becomes very unproductive for me. So for me, I need to think of, what do I want my lifestyle to be? What do I want my standards to be, right? What type of work do I enjoy doing? And that, when I think of that, I barely need anything. Honestly, I really don't need a whole lot else. I feel inspired. I am ready to, I go to auditions all the time. I am ready to work on my resume. I'm ready to do all the things that go into this when I just think of those things. But some other things that help me are when I know my goal is, when I know it's realistic for me. So it doesn't help me. I'm the type of person where if I think about being in a movie with Brad Pitt, I'm like, okay, that's not going to happen. So I'm just going to sit on my couch with my dog and cuddle. So I need it to be realistic. I know that about myself. And I also, it helps me if my goals are also attainable. So thinking about getting 3 Broadway shows in 1 year doesn't sound attainable for me. And it sounds very overwhelming. The lifestyle itself doesn't sound attainable at this point in my career. So I need to make sure that I'm choosing things that sound doable for me. And I need to make sure that I'm doing things that once I have the goal, maintaining it sounds doable for me too, or I get super turned off and I get demotivated. So from the SMART goals category, those are the 2 things that I really need to have honed in. But other than that, I'm totally non-specific. I can't get more specific than that. I needed to be more focused on my values and how I want my lifestyle to be and the type of work that I love to do and how passionate I feel when I do it. So if you're an in-between person, feel free to play and just go through each category and see what feels right for you. You'll definitely know. It won't be hard to figure out because you'll want to take action when you figure it out. All right. So that's how to think about planning your year in terms of the vision you want to create for yourself, or in other words, the goals that you want to make for yourself. Remember to keep it either super structured or not. I say non-structured or non-specific, but it's not really even that. Like there is structure and specificity to it, but it's not based on the goal itself. It's more about what's surrounding the vision than the actual goal of the vision, if that makes sense. So that's that part of it. But then there's also what leads up to that ultimate vision, which I like to call how I like to categorize your style is routine versus non-routine. And I think it'll become clear as I talk about it. So there are certain types of people where they need to be super structured in their day-to-day or their week-to-week life in order for them to move forward in their goals. And then other people, they need absolute freedom. They can't have anything pre-decided. And we are told in life that, or we're told in our society that only one way really works. And that's not true at all. There's totally people who absolutely do thrive with lots and lots of freedom in their day-to-day routine. Now, it's very rare that you'll find someone who's all one way or the other, because we're all humans. And I don't think unless you're a robot, there's not anyone who I've met in my life who needs absolute structure. Actually, that's not true. I've definitely met people, but it's very rare. I don't know a lot of people who are like that. And then also on the other side, I don't know a lot of people who thrive on absolute freedom at all. Like, I think the only people I know who have absolute freedom with absolutely no routine, they're not doing so great. So most people are a combination of the two, but you will lean one way or the other more. So as I go, try to think of which one you are. So when I say routine, like a routine person, they're usually people who they need to have their week to week or their day to day predetermined. So for example, if you know that you need to be taking certain actions, like I know I need to be practicing certain things, or I need to be going to auditions in order to hit my goal, you might be someone who needs to know every single day, I am going to be practicing the audition songs in my book, and I'm going to every single week go to at least one audition. That might be you. It might be even more specific than that. It might be, I need to make sure that I warm up. The first thing in the morning I do is go through my vocal exercises, and I need to make sure that I have a cup of coffee right after that. And then I need to make sure that I steam right after my cup of coffee. And then I need to make sure that I go through the casting notices and make sure I pick out the auditions that I'm going to do for next week, because my auditions for this week are already planned. I know exactly which auditions I'm going to go to. That might be you. And if that's you, lean into that hard, because you don't need to be the kind of person that, okay, but I need to make sure that I leave space for when I want to just go with the flow. And so some days I'm not going to do that. If you know that's not you, don't feel pressure to do that. Because I know a lot of people who are like this, they have people in their life. It's so bizarre. We usually attract our opposites. So like a lot of people who need a lot of day-to-day structure, they have people in their lives who encourage them. They really want them to have more time freedom and more flexibility. And we don't need to villainize the people in our lives. They're just coming from their perspective, because they might be like that, or they might just want more of you, and that's okay. But because they feel that encouragement to have more flexibility and freedom, they pressure themselves. They internally pressure themselves to let go of their routines that really work for them. Don't do that. That does not work for you. What might work for you is leaving. This is how you get around it. Actually plan out when you have spontaneous free time to like help yourselves to be more compatible with the people in your lives. Actually plan out that spontaneity. So keep your routine that works for you. And then maybe you have from 3 to 5, there's going to be nothing in my calendar that is my specific routine, but it's actually a part of your routine to have that nothing in your calendar. You'll want to pay me the bucks after that, the big bucks, when you know that hack. It's super empowering and super helpful to work with other people. So that's for the people who are super structured in their day-to-day routine. And then there's the people who are non-structured routine people. And you might feel the opposite pressure. You might feel pressure to have a daily routine, that because there's people in your life who are like, oh, you're too spontaneous, and I need to know when you do this, and I need to know when you're off of work and when you're ready to do this and when you do this, so that I know, right? Because you have people in your life who are super structured. So funny how we attract the opposite people. But it's so but this might be you, who you feel pressured to have everything structured, have everything pre-decided and everything planned. Don't do that. That is not for you. It'll have you feel stressed. It'll have you not motivated. And what usually happens for a lot of people who are like this is they will they'll plan everything out, but then they won't actually honor their plans. They'll skip it a lot of times. So instead, what you want to do is make sure that you are choosing points of focus instead. So for example, if you know that your goal is, I want to be in Hamilton by the end of the year, December 1st. How you might want to do this is, for the first quarter, I'm going to focus on getting in front of the casting team, right? That's my first quarter focus. Notice how it is specific to your goal, but it doesn't have your day-to-day and your week so structured that you feel you don't have any spontaneity to move around or any freedom to be spontaneous. I guess that's how I'm trying to say it. Or you might want to do it month to month or even day to day. It's totally cool for you to do it day to day, but making sure that it's a point of focus. So for instance, I watched an interview of a girl who she booked her Broadway debut with Hamilton. Isn't that funny? Like her specific goal was Hamilton, but she didn't, or based on what she said, she didn't have like a daily routine per se that got her there. She just decided, I'm going to do one thing every day that moves me closer to that goal. One thing that is focused on moving me toward that goal. She didn't say in the morning at 8 o'clock, I'm going to make sure that I sing Hamilton songs. And then by 2 p.m., I'm going to make sure I audition for Hamilton. She didn't do that. Or at least that's not what she said. She said she's going to have one thing that she focuses on a day. Maybe for you, it's one thing per week that moves you closer to that goal. Maybe it's that you have a point of focus for your day-to-day routine that is like, I'm trying to think of an example that you just want to practice every single day, right? It's not necessarily routine, but you just want to make sure that you utilize your voice every day to make sure that you're staying on skill. That's kind of like an in-between, which brings me to the next point that, again, most people are not going to be one or the other. Most people are going to be some combination of the two. So it might be that you like to have a daily routine, but you like to have flexibility throughout the week, if that makes sense. So you like to have the same things that you do every day, but you don't like to have, for instance, it be 8 a.m. you wake up and do your vocal warm-ups every single day. That might be too much routine for you. So it might be, I want to make sure that I do warm-ups every day, and I want to make sure I do use my voice every day, but it can be any time of the day, right? That may be the type of person you are. Or you might be the person who you have a week-to-week routine. Like, I know I go to auditions every single week on a Friday, but it doesn't matter what time of day on Friday, right? So really get to know yourself and know who it is that you are and know which direction you lean in more strongly and lean into that, and do not pressure yourself to go one way or the other. Because truly, some people do thrive on more spontaneity and some people do thrive on more routine, more specificity, and that's okay. Now, how do you implement if you are more of a freedom type of person, or you're in between, but you don't lean hard on the structure side? So for the people who lean hard on the structure side, it's a lot more simple. It's simpler for you to implement, right? Because if I'm the type of person where I need my hour to hour planned out and that's how I thrive, boom, you just put in your calendar, 8 o'clock I do this, 9 o'clock I do that, blah, blah, blah. But if you're not the person who needs hour to hour routine, and actually it doesn't work for you to have hour to hour routine, how do you make sure that you implement it properly so that you aren't like overbooking yourself because you don't have a realistic grasp on how many things you can do in a day, right? I'm this type of person where I'm in between. Like, I might say that I am in between. Maybe I lean slightly more to the structured side. Yeah, I think that's true. I think I do lean more to the structured side, but I do also need a lot of spontaneity, and I also need to change up my routine frequently. So, for example, I know that I'm the type of person where I need to make sure that I put things in my calendar, or else I will completely overbook myself, or I will completely forget that I need to get stuff done. Like, there are certain things that I never forget, but then other things I definitely do forget. So I do need to have things in my calendar, and I do need to have certain things on a routine. Like, for instance, I know I need to sing every single day, or I'm not going to move forward with my goals. That's just me. Some people, they can go weeks without singing and they're perfectly fine. Not me. I need to sing every single day. And if not every single day, at least more days in the week than less days in the week, like 4 to 5 days a week rather than 2 to 3 days a week. I need to be singing every day. And I also, I am the type of person that needs to make sure that I am moving a couple times a week. Like, that needs to be a routine for me, or it will completely go out the window. Like, I need to exercise and have it in my calendar. But what I don't like, I hate having my every single day be dictated by my calendar. I don't like that my calendar, I've done this before, where I planned out every single thing and had my week completely planned out and told myself I have to stick exactly to the times that I put in my calendar, I can't do that. Like, I need to be able to move around my calendar, not only because I need more flexibility because of my career, but because I literally cannot, I can make myself do certain things, but like I will get burned out super, super fast if I force myself to stick to a certain daily structure. Like, that just does not work for me, or even a certain weekly structure. And I found this out because I used to actually work for a gym, and they used to have us on a schedule before we built our client list of our, we had floor shifts, these things called floor shifts, where we would go in and we would clean up the floor and we would help people until we built up our clientele. And I realized right away, I cannot be on the same floor shift every single week. This drives me crazy. It's so boring. My brain feels like it's going to fall out of my head. I need to mix it up. But I am the type of person where I need to be doing activities every single day, and they need to be around the same types of activities. Like, I know that I absolutely have to look at auditions every day. It's just something that I feel driven to do. I just need it in my life. I love it. I love doing it. And also, I need to be going to an audition at least once a week. I've learned that about myself. If I skip a week without auditions, something feels off to me. So I'm definitely an in-between kind of person. I need my calendar. I need it to be color coded. I need to have some things that I do every single day. I need to have some things that I do every week, but I can't have it be at the same time every day. And I can't have my week to week look exactly the same. It drives me crazy. I can't, if I make my schedule for one way for a week, even if I stick to it, it won't be the same next week because I will lose my mind. So you might be that kind of person. If that's the case, you'll figure out the way that works for you. What I recommend to figure that out is go day to day and figure out how you like your day to feel on a day-to-day basis. And then also go week to week. How do you like your week to week to feel? And then go month to month. You can even go quarter to quarter. I do that all the time. I will think about, okay, on a day-to-day basis, I know I need to have these things be the same every single day. Like, I know for me, every morning needs to start off with a little bit of just me time. I know that has to be every single day, or I just don't function the same throughout the day. And I know I need 8 hours of sleep. And I know I need to have my end of the day be snuggling with my puppy. And I know that I need to have one part of my day be where I go balls to the wall and I just focus on work and I just go straight through a couple of hours. I know that that's how my day is going to look every day. I just don't know exactly which activities and at what time that focus block is going to happen. And then when it comes to week, I know that in the beginning / early middle of the week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, that's when I'm going to have most of my hard, really specific work. And that's when I'm going to do a lot of things throughout the day. And then on the beginning of the week and at the very end of the week, it might be a little bit sparse, right? So I know that about myself. So I will middle load my week. My month to month, very, very, so for month to month, I actually know that I'm going to have different points of focus in terms of my day-to-day routine, but my goal has to stay the same month to month. Does that make sense? So I know every month I'm going to be focusing on moving my theater career forward. I'm going to be focused on getting on Broadway, and I'm going to be focusing on building my demos for my voiceover and focusing on building my demos for my TV and film. But in terms of how that will look, it's definitely going to change. Like, I might not be focused on theater completely in that month. I might lean more to the voiceover side, or I might lean more to the TV film side. And that's what works well for me. So again, I might have the same points of focus, but which point of focus gets more attention changes on a month to month. And I love it. It feels really good to do that. So think about that for yourself. It's going to be completely different, probably, how you like to operate on a day-to-day basis versus the week to week versus the month to month. Most people, again, are combinations of those things. And it's very rare that you are going to be the type of person who's completely structured on every single thing at all times. You might be. If that's you, more power to you. It's great. So those are the two categories you want to think about when planning. how you'd like to think about goals, how your brain likes to operate around goals, and how your brain likes to operate around the implementation of the goal, routine versus non-routine. Now, I want to really point out that just because you might be one way on your goals doesn't mean that you're going to be that way on your routine. So just because you're super specific in how you think about goals doesn't mean that you are super specific in your routines and you need a lot of routine, right? You might be the kind of person who leans more toward value-driven goals, but then you lean more toward a lot of structure in your routine. That's me. I actually lean way more toward value-driven goals and more open-endedness and non-specificity when I think about my goals. But when I think about the implementation, I think I lean more towards structure and routine. I do need lots of freedom in my routine, but I definitely need more structure than I do need freedom. And it might be the opposite for you. Maybe you are super structured in your goaling. You need the SMART goals. Every bit of it needs to be specific and timely and all that. But you actually need a lot of freedom in your day-to-day, and you like to have just points of focus. If that works for you, do that, but make sure you know yourself and you follow that. I think that this is way more important than mapping out, well, unless you're the type of person that needs structure, but it's way more important than mapping out your business plan. Well, I won't even say that. It's not more important. It's just this needs to come first. I think if you know yourself with this, it makes it a lot easier for you to map out your business plan. When you know this, it just comes naturally to map out your business plan. That's what I mean. Because when I figured this out, that's what happened for me. When I figured out, oh, this is the type of goal person I am, and this is the type of day-to-day person I am, and the implementation person I am, my business plan just came naturally to me. So figure this out first, and then allow your business plan to come in and your how you like to structure your action. I think that will be so much easier for you. And that's all. Woohoo! We got through December, we got through the year, and now we are going to kick ass in 2024. I want to hear all about what you came up with when you were thinking about the kind of person you are in terms of goaling and the kind of person you are in terms of day-to-day. What goal do you have for yourself? What vision do you have for yourself? And how are you going to implement that? I want to hear feedback from you guys. And as we go through the next month and the next year, I want to hear updates. What comes up for you as you actually implement this? How does it feel to be working more in line with how your brain works and how your energy naturally flows? Does it feel freeing? Does it feel more intuitive to you? Does it feel like this feels like home? Because that's, for me, it was that. I was like, oh, this feels so natural and so at home. And I'm so glad that I don't have to try to fit myself into a box and do what other people are doing. That's just not for me. Let me know. I would love to hear feedback. All right. I will see you later. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Bye.